Good day, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of our lecture series in 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world. For this episode, our topic is all about literary reading through a linguistic context, or how to analyze literary work using linguistic approach. According to David Richter, practically everything we do that is specifically human is expressed in language. This is why reading through a linguistic context focuses on the language's use in the literary work and how it is used to convey meaning. Yes, if in biographical approach we focus on the life story or the biography or autobiography of the author, and in social linguistic approach we focus on um, social, political, economic, and cultural aspects of the situation during the time when the author wrote the literary work. This time, in linguistic approach, we will focus on the language used, how the language is used by the author, and how it is used to convey the meaning of the story or literary work. Now, what are the reasons to read literature through a linguistic context? Okay, first, reading the text on its own may help you understand the literary text through analyzing the words, sentences, patterns, or imagery of the text. Yes, that's why class is called as linguistic approach. So our focus class are the words, how the words are used in the story, sentences, the different structure of the sentences, including patterns or imagery that the authors use in the text. All of this, when you are going to analyze the words, sentences, patterns, or imagery of the text, will help you understand the message, the main context of that particular literary text. Second, analyzing literary text grammar, syntax, or phonemic pattern may help you find the meaning of the text within its form and help you interpret it. Look, so grammar, syntax on how the words linguistic form are used in the sentence, in phrases or clauses, or even phonemic pattern help us, the reader, to find the meaning of the text within its form, and it will help you to interpret it. Okay, now, what are the linguistic strategies to be used in literary reading? Okay, first, analyze the diction or choice of words in the text. When we are talking of diction, we are talking of the choice of words that the author used within the text. Now, look if the words are simple or easy to understand. Are the words complicated? Are the words considered as denotative or connotative? Are the words class contain so many meanings? Because most of the words class have multiple meanings. Okay. Second, examine the text syntax. As what we discussed earlier, when we say syntax, this is how the words are used in sentences, clauses, or phrases. So what is sentence or sentences? When we say sentences, these are group of words that has subject and predicate and expresses a complete thought. When we say clauses, these are group of words that have subject and predicate or verb, but sometimes they express a complete thought, sometimes they do not. And phrases, these are group of words class that normally do not express a complete thought. So that's very, very important. So we must examine the text syntax. Okay, next is observe the use of figurative language. Normally, and most of the author, they normally use class figures of speech or figurative language, such as simile, metaphor, personification, what else? Apostrophe, onomatopoeia, and others. So normally, class, the authors use words that are considered figurative in nature. Next, analyze the mood and tone of the text. When we are talking class of the tone of the text, we are talking of the mood. That's the mood of the story, happy, sad, boring, uh, exciting, etc. It's very, very important that we know how to analyze the mood and the tone of the text because it will help us to understand how and why the author used and write this particular literary text. Next, observe the text overall structure. So when we say overall structure, uh, look if the text is considered as poetry or prose. When we say prose, it is considered as narrative. It's narrative. Look if it's very long or if it's very short. So that's why we have short story, or if it's very long narrative, we have the novel. So does the author use the normal way of writing it that has an introduction, the considered body, and the concluding part or the conclusion, or the author uses the other way around in writing the structure of the text. So if it's poetry, look if it's lyric, dramatic, or narrative poetry. Look also if there is a measurement because sometimes some author or some poet they have measurement when they are writing particular poem or poetry. Sometimes they do not have. We call it as free verse if that is the case. And last, analyze the content of the text. So it's very important that we are going to analyze the content. That's why class uh, sometimes we have the so-called synopsis at the back of the particular novel. So try to read it, and you will come up. You will know what is the story all about. So it's very important that we know the content of the text. So again, in analyzing a particular literary work using linguistic approach, consider the and diction, the syntax, the figurative language, the mood and tone of the text, the overall structure of the text, and last is the content of the text. Another strategy in analyzing literary work using linguistic approach is through the use of the different literary approaches. So there are literary approaches class that are purely designed when you are going to analyze one particular literary work using linguistic context. Remember, in sociolinguistic context, we can use the following literary approaches. We have the feminism, remember, Marxism, historicism, new historicism, post-colonialism, then we have queer theory, and we have social realism. Now, in linguistic context, we will use structuralism, formalism, and post-structuralism. So what is structuralism? It is a method of interpreting and analyzing such things as language, literature, and society, which focuses on contrasting ideas or elements of structure and attempts to show how they relate to the whole structure. Now, how about formalism? It is also known as new criticism, so which focuses on the structure of a particular text. It examines a text without taking into account any outside influence. And post-structuralism, this is the reaction to structuralism, so post-structuralism. In the linguistic context, there may be underlying structures that may have different interpretation based on how the words or phrases were used in the text. So, what have you noticed? All of these three literary approaches related to linguistic context, they are focusing with the structure of the text. Okay, now let's discuss the different guide questions in literary reading through a linguistic context. Again, this will serve as your guide questions class when you are asked to analyze a particular literary work through a linguistic context. Okay, these are the questions that will serve as your guide. First, what were the striking words in the text? What words were unfamiliar to you? Which words attracted your attention, as what I said a while ago? And what words were dramatic. So, look, we are going to focus with the words. Words that are dramatic, words that are attractive, words that are unfamiliar or familiar, and words that are very striking. Next, what nouns are the most prominent? Look, we are going to consider the nouns. Remember, nouns are names of person, places, things, or event. Then ask, are these concrete or abstract nouns? So when we say concrete, those nouns that can be perceived by our senses. And when we are talking of abstract nouns, those nouns that cannot be perceived by our senses. Then consider also verbs in the sentence, those action words. So what about verbs? Then does the author use common words or lofty diction? Look, so is the diction used class familiar, unfamiliar, or easy to understand, or complicated? Are the words short or long? Is there any word that has two or more meanings? I said there are some words that have multiple meanings, so it's very important that you know how the word is being used, which word is appropriate to that particular sentence or meaning of the sentence. Okay, this time let's focus on the syntax. Are the sentences in the usual order of subject and predicate or subject and verb? Remember the order of the sentence. We have the so-called natural and inverted order. So if the subject comes first before the predicate or verb, it is in the natural order. So if the sentence class is in this way, the predicate or the verb comes before the subject, we call it as inverted order of the sentence. So it's very important that you know the usual order of what? The subject and verb in the sentence. Then, what are dependent clauses and what are independent clauses? Look, so you must know how to identify which are dependent clauses and independent clauses. Remember, when we say independent clauses, it expresses a complete thought, while dependent clause do not express, or dependent clauses class do not express a complete thought. Then, if you are going to restructure a sentence or phrase, will it make a difference? So that's very important. Is the voice active or passive? Remember the voice of verb. So when we say active voice, it means class that the subject is the doer of the action, while passive class the subject is the one who receives the action. Okay, is there a rhythm in the sentence structure in relation to the length of sentences or lines? We are talking here, class, with the measurement because most of the poetry they have measurement. So counts of syllables in every line and counts of what? Counts of lines in every stanza. Sometimes there are rhymes. We call it as end rhyme. Another is what literary devices are used. Do the author use symbolism, juxtaposition, stream of consciousness, alliteration, or repetition in the text? Are there images? So when we are talking of images, we are talking how the words are related or connected to our senses, to our sense of sight, hearing, taste, smell, and sense of touch. Do those images stand for anything aside from their literal meaning? Okay, it's very important to ask that question. Next is, what is the tone? Is the speaker happy or sad about the subject? Is the story exciting or very suspenseful? Is the tone negative or positive? So they are very important. Next is, what is the structure of the text? Look, is it narrative or it's poetry? If it's narrative, ask, is it linear or non-linear? So if it's poetry or poem, what type of poem is it? Is it lyric, narrative, or a dramatic? Then, what is the point of view of the text? Is it first person, third person, or omniscient point of view? Another is, does the language help in delivering and understanding its content? Is there a theme, such as love, such as revenge, deception, war, or poverty? Those are examples of theme. What is it saying about its subject matter? So when we are talking of subject matter, we are talking of the main idea of the story. How do the literary elements contribute to the effectiveness of the text? And last is, what is the text saying about the world in general, or how the text relate to the society in general? Okay, let's try to analyze by using this example. This time, our example is a poem, and it's entitled Man of Earth by Amador T. Daggett. So, the poem is, pliant is the bamboo, I am a man of earth. They say that from the bamboo we had our first birth. Am I of the body or of the green leaf? Do I have to whisper my every sin and truth? If the wind passes by, must I stoop and try to measure fully my flexibility? I might have been the bamboo, but I will be a man. Bend me then, O Lord, bend me if you can. Okay, let's have first about the author. Amador T. Daggio was a poet, novelist, and teacher during the pre-war. He was born on January 8, 1912 in Lawag, Ilocos Norte, but grew up in Mountain Province. He graduated with honors at University of the Philippines in 1932. In 1952, he obtained his Master of Arts in English at Stanford University as a Fulbright scholar. He is best for his poem, Man of Earth, the topic of our analysis. So, every time you are asked to analyze a particular literary work, it is very important that you are going to tackle first about the author because you can analyze it also using biographical approach. Okay, let's go to the analysis. First, the structure. The poem is a lyric poetry. It has varied rhythm. It is composed of four stanzas, each one with 5 to 7 syllables. Look, so 1, 2, 3, 4. There are four stanzas. And each stanza is composed of four lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. And each line is composed of 5 to 7 syllables. So in this case, plant is the bamboo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Second line, I am man of earth. 5 syllables. And they say that from the bamboo. So 7. So 5 to 7 syllables in each line for every stanza. How about the sound device? The poem contains end rhymes, except the first and third line of the second stanza and first and third line of the last stanza, which have pre-verse form. Let's see. Good. So, what's the end rhyme? Bamboo, bamboo. So, first and third line have the same end rhyme. Third verse, second and fourth stanza have the same end rhyme. So we have A, B, rhyme. How about second stanza? Body or lip, whisper, grip. So second and fourth line, they have the same end rhyme. While in first and third line, they do not have end rhyme. So that's why in the second stanza, the first and third line class do not have end rhyme. In the third stanza, by, try, fully, flexibility. Okay, by rhyme, they have the same and rhyme. Fully, flexibility, they have the same and rhyme. So this is A, A, B, B rhyme. Unlike in the first stanza, A, B, A, B. Okay, fourth stanza, bamboo, then man, Lord, can. Man, can. So second and fourth line, they have the same end rhyme. But in the case of first and third line class, they do not have end rhyme. So that's why in our analysis, we said class that the poem contains end rhymes except the first and third line of the second stanza and first and third line of the last stanza, which have free verse form. Okay, how about the language? So the poetry or the poem has figures of speech. We have the apostrophe, metaphor, and personification. Class, apostrophe. So when we are talking of apostrophe, apostrophe class is a type of figure of speech that addresses or that calls class the person who is absent or who is already dead or an inanimate object. So our example is the lines, bend me then, O Lord, bend me if you can. So we are calling here Lord, who is absent. Okay, metaphor. Metaphor class is a type of figure of speech that compare two things class without using what like or as. So here the man is being compared or am I of the body or of the green leaf I might have been the bamboo. So the man is being compared to bamboo or the body or green leaf of the bamboo. And personification class is a type of figures of speech to which we are giving attribute of a person to an inanimate object or non-living thing. So example here is they say that from the bamboo we had our first bird. So it is like we are saying that the man comes from the bamboo. Next is the imagery class. We said that imagery has something to do with our senses or how we sense the words in the text. First is sound. So it refers to sense of hearing. So the lines are, they say that from the bamboo, then do I have to whisper. So from the word say and whisper. So we hear class whatever what it refers to sense of hearing. We hear whatever particular person says and whisper. We hear class whisper of a person. Sense of sight. Am I of the body or of the green leaf? Then be then, O Lord. So body, leaf, class, uh, it refers to sense of sight. Now touch, sense of touch. If the wind passes by. So from the word wind, we cannot see wind, but we can feel it. How about mood and tone? So we can say class that the mood or tone of the speaker or the author class is sad because of hardships and crises in life, but he is reluctant to find strength from all these trials and adversities. Okay, now the theme. What is the theme of the poem? So the poem tackles how the Filipinos are very resilient and pliant, like the bamboo. Despite the economic crisis, political instability, and adversities in life, they humbly stoop and try to adjust and survive. At the same time, they stand on their own ground, firm, bold, brave, daring. They continue living even if it's hard. So that is the analysis of the poem Man of Earth by Amador T. Daggio. So in analyzing literary text through a linguistic context, It is very important that we know the different linguistic aspects and have an idea on how to use them. It is also important that we know when the literary text was written because the languages or words may vary from time to time. Okay, that's all for this episode. I hope to see you in our next episode, and that is episode 7. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.